Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever applies to you, good people, and thank you for tuning in to the first official episode of Dan and Frankie Go to Hollywood. How are you doing, Frankie?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited this time round because, we got lots to talk about this time, don't we?
Yeah, it's exciting, not just because we're actually doing a proper episode and talking about movies, but also because it's a new year, which means stats and end of year lists and fun things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we just got done yesterday filming a top 10 of 2023 video, which will be over on my YouTube channel. If you go and just type in movie talk with Dan Jensen, you'll be able to find that. That video will, well, actually, by the time this podcast is out, the video is already up. So, and probably has 1 million views, I'd say, roughly, give or take.
And we'll share links to that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. How's your day been? What's been happening?
It's been raining a lot, which has been pretty perfect because I didn't actually get round to watching our movies that we're going to talk about. So I watched one last night and then 2 today. So, yeah, fun movie day.
This actually makes me feel good because, you know, I've spent my life being the one who's completely unprepared for everything. And I actually did better than you this time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was doing last minute 2023 movie watching. And I also like to watch them last minute before recording so that they're fresh.
Yeah, no, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. So, my day's been going pretty well as well. All the way up until I saw a movie trailer today that enraged me and made me shake my fist at my screen and exclaim why I order and stuff. So, of course, Mickey Mouse is now in the public domain, which means that people are able to utilize the character and not get sued by Disney, which is kind of crazy, but for such a massively famous character. I saw a poster today online for a film called Mickey's Mousetrap, I believe it was, and initially I thought, fan film, or maybe fake poster, until I did some more research and saw, no, this is a film. And I saw the trailer on YouTube, and I am already picking this as my number 1 most hated movie of 2024. Did you watch the trailer?
I did, and I was... Yeah. My thought was, is it real? Because it doesn't look like the kind of movie that you would see at the cinema.
Yeah, exactly. It looked like something that Neil Breen might have made. The acting was just abysmal. The cinematography, I don't think there was any. Everything about it just looked terrible. It really reminded me of, last year's Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, which was my number 1 hated movie of that year. So it seems to me that whenever they're taking these characters out of the public domain and making shit horror films with them, it instantly becomes my most hated film of the year. But anyway, I didn't let it get me down too much. But I moved on.
Well, maybe a controversial statement, but I don't actually like Mickey Mouse, so I don't care.
Oh, wow, okay. And to all those still listening, thank you. You've had some mail deliveries, I believe, this week.
Yeah, had a few in recent times. There was Black Friday sales, and then Christmas sales and Boxing Day sales and eBay finds when you just get that obscure movie that you saw years ago and don't even remember if you liked it, and it's not universally well liked, but you feel like you need to own it. And so I found a copy of Soul Survivors on eBay. Have you seen that?
I haven't seen it. I know of it. The cover is very familiar to me, but I don't think I've seen it. I'm going to go with
I only really remember one thing from it, and I think it's like the twist ending, so I'm not going to say anything about it. But that is all I remember. So I found it cheap on eBay, so I'll give it the chance.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, look, I did the same. I took advantage of end of year sales and stuff, and basically caught up on every single movie that I just haven't gotten around to buying throughout the year because, cost of living and everything, and who can afford Blu-rays these days? Shall I go through very quickly, just rattling off names of the list of 12 movies that I bought? All right. In no particular order, I have got Gran Turismo, Barbie, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, Shazam Fury of the Gods, Joyride, Fast and Furious X, Blue Beetle, Ant-Man Quantumania, Scream 6, The Pope's Exorcist, Knock at the Cabin, and Morbius. Because it's always Morbin time around here, I tells ya.
Yeah.
Because I don't care what people say. I liked the film. I didn't love it. I didn't proclaim it as the best movie of the year or anything, but yeah, I thought the hate that it received was a little overwhelming. I think you were the same, right?
Yeah, I went with you to the premiere, and yeah, it was a good time. We all had fun.
Yeah, exactly. And I showed it to my fiance, who, well, actually, that was out of the 12 movies. That was the one that she picked. Because, yeah, she is absolutely in love with Jared Leto. I think Jared Leto to her is what Margot Robbie is to me, which is probably why we've got this Joker Harley obsession happening. And yeah, out of all of those quality films, she chose Morbius. God bless her heart. And yeah, look, she really enjoyed it as well. So yeah, I don't know. Everybody that I care about loves Morbius, so it says something about the circle of friends that I keep. But speaking of my circle of friends, we need to give a shout out, I believe, because there is one in particular, one outstanding soul who has just been, even after only one episode of our podcast, he is already our biggest fan. And I want to say hi to Jesse, who is a musician. He's the lead singer of the band Dark Cell. He's an author. He is just he's a very creative person, an all-round rad dude. And yeah, the guy is actually one of the biggest inspirations of mine in terms of doing podcasts, because he has a few podcasts himself. And if you want to find his stuff, you can go to www.freakproductions.com. That is FREEK. You can find basically his whole world is on there. All of his books and comics and podcasts, everything that you ever want to know about the guy is on there. So yeah, big thank you to Jesse for supporting us, because it's people like that that's going to keep this podcast going.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. I'm glad that you enjoyed our episode.
Yeah. So all right. Well, what do you say we get stuck into the nitty gritty of this? Enough about how our day has been and all that inconsequential stuff. Let's talk movies, shall we?
Yeah, let's talk stats.
All right. So so we just recently did our best of 2023 video, which we're not going to cover here because why would you go watch our video when you can just hear it here? So being that we are complete attention whores and we want everyone to watch us and listen to us all over the place. No, that's not true. Yeah, so I do believe that you've got some things to say about 2023 that we didn't cover in the video.
Yeah, well, I watched quite a few films. I actually, well, compared to some people, very little compared to others, but I ended up watching 294 last year. Which I was kind of sad that I couldn't hit the milestone number and get over 300.
Oh.
But end of year is always a hard time for me to fit in films. So of those, 50 were 2023 releases,
Wow.
which means I have 244 older releases. So I also have made a top 20 because I had to pick from 244. 20 favorites that were my first time watches this year. But before we get into that, I love seeing my most watched actors. And my list is a bit skewed this year because I watched all 9 Fast and Furious films to be prepared
As you should.
for Fast X.
Mm-hmm.
But it worked out that my top 3 are not Fast and Furious actors before they all show up.
Right.
So that's kind of fun.
Yep.
And then I thought it would be fun, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe should have done this in a different order.
Why is that?
Maybe we'll come back.
Okay.
Maybe we'll come back after I do my top 20 because that might help you think about it.
Okay. Right. All right, no worries.
So obviously I'm not going to talk about all these 20 films like we did last time because that would take up the whole time. So I'm just going to list them. You can say if you've seen them or not. And then I've just got them in the order I watched them because I hate ranking and it's really hard. So I didn't. Except for my top 2 of the year. I had a very definite top 2. So I'll save them for last.
All right, let's get into it.
So first off, Joker.
Woohoo! Yeah.
Which I watched right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah. And I actually bought you that Blu-ray. I will say is that in my review of that film, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I couldn't fault the film. It is extraordinary.
Yeah. Next, A Page of Madness, which is interesting because this is a silent film from 1926, Japanese film. I realized early in the year, I think there was a thing going around about picking your favorite movies from each decade, and I realized I hadn't seen any films from the 20s, which was horrifying. So Mubi had a bunch of silent films, so I watched A Page of Madness, and it was amazing.
Right.
You'll have to watch it one day.
What makes you think I haven't seen it already?
Because you told me.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Not to say that I'm against old films, because, I mean, I have 2 films in my DVD collection from the 20s, which was the original Phantom of the Opera and Nosferatu, so, which both were incredible. So, it's just one of those ones I haven't seen.
I then watched The Thief of Baghdad, which was the 1924 version, so silent film again, which was the second silent film I watched, so off to a good start. Then The Wildcat from 1921, another silent one, first Ernst Lubitsch film, which has been a highlight.
Right.
Then I've put them all as one because I watched them in one weekend and it's one story, so I can't separate them. John Wick, 1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Which I watched before number 4. Ben-Hur I finally watched, and this is the 1959 one, of course, not the remake, which I didn't know existed until I accidentally purchased it online, thinking I was buying the old one.
Oopsies.
Yeah. Next, Sherlock Jr., which was my second Buster Keaton film. But I only watched my first Buster Keaton film this year as well. And then I didn't check the pronunciation. I'm just going to say it with it. It's got a little flicky accent on the E. So I don't know if it's Leon. So would that be Leon? If it's got
most
accent?
people just pronounce Leon. Yeah, I know it's got the thingy, which would be
it's a French
Leon,
film,
but...
so it's however, anyway, Leon Morin, Priest, French film from 1961. Then Images, Altman film. Then Hot Rod, which was thanks to you. Calvary, It Happened One Night, because I realized I had never seen a Clark Gable film before, so I watched that one and it was amazing. The Whole Town's Talking, Terrified, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, To Live and Die in LA, Spanglish, thanks to Kylie at our movie marathon, As Good as It Gets, and that's it. So my top 2, the first one, like a change your life kind of movie.
Yeah.
And that was La La Land.
Yes, of course.
A movie that was kind of made for me and I didn't know it. And it was really interesting. Because I'd watched Damien Chazelle films and thought I should just watch that, because I don't know if it was Whiplash that made me think that, because Whiplash was one of those films that I was like, it's about a jazz drummer. I don't care about jazz. I don't care about drumming. I don't need to watch that. But then you said it was amazing, so I watched it and it was amazing. So I watched this. But the funny thing was, I've skimmed some reviews that made it sound like it might be a bit upsetting. And I messaged you and said, is this a sad movie? Is this going to upset me? And you were like, no, it's not a sad movie at all.
Yeah, all right. In my defense, okay, so I saw it twice when it was in theaters back in 2016, I think it was. Yeah, 2016. So it had been years since I'd seen it. And the funny thing was, I thought I had seen it more frequently because I remembered it so well. Okay, I almost remembered it so well. And then, yeah, when you got right into it and everything, I went upstairs. I was like, oh my God, I've got to crack the Blu-ray open and give it another watch. And to my absolute shock, the Blu-ray was still in its shrink wrap. I mean, I bought it the day it came out. Like, I loved the film so much. It was my number one movie of 2016. But I hadn't seen it again since then. And so, yeah, the ending, I didn't quite remember how it went. So that's why because I sort of remembered it a different way. I was like, oh, no, it's fine. And then, yeah, you messaged me and you had words to say. Whoopsies.
Yeah. But, I mean, that was overshadowed by just how much I loved the film. I just had no idea that is what it was. So that was amazing. The other highlight of the year, which is not as good as La La Land, but I mean, not much is. In October, lots of people were talking about The Exorcist 3, and in particular, Brad Dourif's performance in it. And I decided I was going to finally watch all the Exorcist movies, so I watched the first one again, because it had been a while, and then I watched the second one. And then if people hadn't been talking about number 3 in Brad Dourif, I may not have made it after the second one.
Yeah.
That was not good. But anyway, so I watched number 3, and it was quite amazing. And Brad Dourif, quite amazing. I can't think off the top of my head any other performance in a movie that just completely captivated me every time he was on screen. And the rest of the movie was also really good as well. And I was really surprised people don't talk about that more, like in horror circles, that it's not a bigger movie than it is.
Yeah. Well, look, I was the same. I somehow just hadn't gotten around to seeing the sequels to The Exorcist. I mean, The Exorcist is one of my most favorite horror films of all time. I've seen it countless number of times. Even got to see it on the big screen at one point, which I was so lucky. And then, so we we watched them around the same time, the sequels. And the second one was awful. Like, that was a really bad film. I was struggling to stay awake in that thing. I watched it with Kylie, my fiance, and she did fall asleep through it, the lucky thing. So I'm sitting there just watching her with her pretty little eyes closed and just thinking to myself, oh man, I wish I could join her right now. But then, I had heard a lot about the third one. A lot of people proclaim it as like such a great film. And so I've been very curious about it. And because I watched it before you did, didn't I?
I think so.
Because I remember, because I'm pretty sure I watched it. I'm just sitting there just thinking to myself, my God, this is so good. And I think I messaged you and I was like, oh my God, you've got to watch this movie. But I think you enjoyed it even more than I did. I mean, I didn't exactly, rush out to buy the t-shirt for it.
I also rushed out and brought the Arrow version of it so that I could watch the Legion cut, because I was curious to see what the differences were. And that was really interesting because all the footage from that, was just old video footage or something. It wasn't all cleaned up. So it was really obvious which scenes were that, and then they just used the movie footage for everything that was the same, or because they didn't have anything from the other version.
Right.
So it was really interesting that you could see exactly which parts were from that, even though you couldn't see a lot of detail in it because of the quality. But I really liked it. The main thing in that was Brad Dourif played the whole character. It wasn't swapping between him and was it Jason Miller?
Yep.
So I preferred the studio interference with that to get Jason Miller in, because I really liked how that worked with the two of them.
Oh, yeah.
But I think the Legion cut ending I preferred, which obviously I'm not going to say anything about that, but yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
And everyone goes on about the famous jump scare.
Yes.
And I found in that scene, there's something else that happens before that famous jump scare that makes me jump way more than the famous jump scare. And when I watched it the second time and knew it was coming, it still did that.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think it's more what you see is more memorable, but the other thing scared me more.
Yeah, no, look, I had heard for years about this thing, because every time you look at a list of the most, the biggest jump scares in film history and everything, that one from The Exorcist 3 is always very high up on the list. And so I knew the scene. I had seen it a dozen times before, because I think it's really cool. Like, it looks visually amazing, but yeah, because I'd seen it so many times, it lost its effect on me. But I agree. Yeah, that thing that happens beforehand, I did not see that coming, and I jumped. Not gonna lie, I had a big old jumperoo in that bit, because but what a great film. Yeah, that was absolutely amazing. So, yeah.
And I have two honorable mentions, just because they're so kind of insane and unexpected joys to watch, that, and also I don't think are well known at all, because I hadn't heard of either of them before this year. And one of them was because after I watched The Exorcist 3 and Brad Dourif's performance, who I've seen him in things, but after watching him in this, I'm like, I need to watch everything that he's ever done. And one of those things is a movie from 94 called Death Machine.
Yes. Good film, that one.
Which, I don't know, I don't think it sounded overly interesting, but I just picked, I don't know, maybe I saw a picture and he had long hair and I was like, he looks really weird and interesting in this. I should watch that one. And oh man, when I put it on, I was just laughing so much. It's got such a style. And I think you watched it almost straight away just from me sending you messages about it.
Oh my god, your messages got me so enthusiastic about that film. You were basically almost doing a running commentary of the film as you're watching it, and the things you were writing to me about how absolutely insane it was and how much you were laughing, and I picked up on your energy through those words in the messages, and I absolutely couldn't wait to watch it. And it delivered. It was, oh my god, it was such a 90s film, that was, in terms of its look, in terms of its plot. It was a really insane film.
Yeah, and so is the other one, which is Adam Chaplin.
Yes.
Which I did not know existed until I saw a thing online saying, this is the goriest movie you'll ever see. And I watched the trailer, and the trailer starts off as any kind of low-budget film. And I'm like, oh, really? Why is everyone going on about this? But then other things came up in the trailer. And as soon as I saw it, I sent it to Dan, because I'm like, this is a Dan film.
Oh my god, was it ever? Yeah.
So that was such a good time as well.
Oh my god, I loved it. When you sent me that trailer, I just watched this thing, and it looked like a trauma film. It just had all the staples of things that I love. You know, excessive violence and gore, weird looking characters and everything. And yeah, my God, that film delivered. I had such a good time watching it. And yeah, looking forward to the sequel. Well, this year now. Actually, it's coming out pretty soon, isn't it? I think is it this month or?
I don't remember. Let me see if there's a release date. I don't know if I saw one.
Yeah, right. But that film. So it's an Italian film. The main actor is also the writer, director, everything, you know, one of those sort of auteur kind of people. But there's so many scenes in that film that stand out in my mind. So even though I've only seen it the one time, you got any?
I can't see anything about a release date for the second one.
I don't know why I thought it was earlier.
But it is this year. But I don't know if it has a date yet.
Yeah. Well, no, look, that's unfortunately, because I am not a letterboxed enthusiast as you are, I don't have although of course I will be doing it this year more now that we have a podcast, and it's going to be kind of important for me to actually keep tabs of what I've been watching. But so I don't really have a comprehensive list of what I watched, but there were 5 films that I saw last year that I discovered from one filmmaker that definitely have changed my life. So there's a friend of mine named Josh. Josh lives in Canada. I've never actually met this guy, but many, many, many years ago we bonded online over the song Ice Ice Baby. That's a long story, but Josh is one of the raddest people. Like, I love the guy to death. And he sent me a reel on Instagram that someone had filmed in a cinema of credits going up a screen. And it just had, like, every, job title on the left-hand side. It said, on the right-hand side, Neil Breen. Like, this guy's name was just going up the screen for every single credit, and the whole audience is just cheering this guy's name until it gets to somebody else's name. Then you hear this, and then the next day, next time Neil Breen comes up, it's like, yay, and stuff. And I'm just like, what is this? What is going on here? And so I had to look up who Neil Breen was, because, I mean, okay, for anyone who tuned into the first episode, and for anyone who knows me, you know that I love movies that are so bad they are amazingly good. And so I looked up Neil Breen, and this guy is like the next Tommy Wiseau. He writes, directs, stars, edits, cinematographs. The dude does the hair and makeup and catering on his films, which is going above and beyond any, sort of Wiseau type that I've ever seen. But I looked him up, and there was one film that everyone was banging on about called Fateful Findings. And it suddenly occurred to me that I actually had, let's just say, obtained a digital copy of that film a while back, but I never got around to watching it because it was a wrong file type codec thing. I couldn't actually play it with the picture. So I found another copy online, a perfectly legal copy, of course. And I watched this thing, and it'd be in my top 5 bad movies, like, movies that are so bad they're great. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to see more of this guy's work. So I wound up watching all 5 Neil Breen films up until the one that he released last year. And out of everything I watched last year, those ones probably, live in my heart the most, because I am now obsessed with Neil Breen. My top 20 is 5 films. There you go.
Wow. Well, good luck. I hope you can see the newest one soon if it gets some kind of release.
It is getting a release this month, so on streaming. So I will be sure to tune into a perfectly legal streaming channel so I can watch that. I will. Yep, that's what I do.
All right, so back to my stats. Can you guess who my top 3 non-Fast and Furious actors are of the year?
I can guess 2 of them. Yeah, I the third one is beyond me, but in no particular order. Actually, no. All right, I'll try and do it in order. So number 1 is Buster Keaton.
No.
No.
But he is one of the 3.
Oh, okay. Right. So, all right. Let's do it in no particular order then. So
yeah, okay.
Okay, cool. Oh, man, you had me going there. I was like, how could Buster Keaton not be... You watched like 6,000 films of his. Brad Dourif is in the top 3, of course. Yeah, because this is what I love about you. Like, when you find someone that... You go like I did with Neil Breen. You get obsessed with people and you just dive into their filmography and go deep. And it is... Yeah, it's quite fascinating. I can't figure out who the third one is, though. Is it male or female?
Male.
Male. See, ordinarily I'd say Michael Shannon, but you didn't do your Shannon September last year, did you?
No. Because,
so...
the previous year I burned out for 31 Days of Horror, so this year I just focused on that.
Yeah, so I don't know. Who is the third?
My number 1 was Brad Dourif with 14 films.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2 was Buster Keaton with 10.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And number 3 with 8 films was Tom Cruise, because I rewatched all the Mission Impossibles.
Oh.
And Jerry Maguire.
Of course you did. Yeah. That's right. Yep. I just didn't pay enough attention there. So. Yeah, I was going through in my head. I'm like, Ryan Gosling? No, you didn't watch that many of his films. Like, yeah. All right. Okay, cool. Well, at least I got 2 out of 3, so I get a silver star for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woohoo! All right. Well, it is a new year. In case you hadn't noticed, it is 2024, according to my calendar with cats on it that I've got sitting in front of me. So, do you have any projects you've got coming up this year? Any actors that you're going to be jumping into? Or
Oh, yeah. I always have projects because I struggle to finish them. So my continuing projects that kind of lost their way this year, I have a general... They're not really projects as much as I just want to watch all their films. So I'm still going with Cillian Murphy and Michael Shannon. And I did make a project of Sylvester Stallone films, which I think I actually made a project list for that, but I think it was all of his films. So I haven't done any for ages. My new one is I decided to watch all of Emma Stone's films that I haven't seen in order. So I've got 28 films on that, but that includes 9 I have seen before, but not for ages, so I thought I'd rewatch them.
Yep.
And then I have this one I just started recently, 50 Years, 50 Films, because when I realised I hadn't seen films from the 20s, I thought I need to watch more old films. So starting from 1920, I have a film for each year for 50 years. So I'm only up to 1925 because, I just started that one. So that's a project.
Yeah,
and
right.
because... of course, when I watched The Thief of Baghdad, I didn't mention this, but that has Douglas Fairbanks in, who I'd never heard of, and he's amazing in that film. It's just such a graceful, athletic performance, and that movie feels like going to the ballet because it's silent, so you've just got the music, and then the movement of the actors and this kind of exaggerated movements and expressions and things. So it was really fun. But yeah, so I've got a bunch of Douglas Fairbanks films on this. I have my project that's been going for about 5 years because I keep forgetting about it, which I have called Films I Really Should Have Seen by Now, which is all big name films that everyone talks about, kind of classics that I've never watched. And for example, the first film off the project I watched was Rocky, which I had always thought, this is a stupid boxing film. I hate boxing. I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
But then I watched it, and it's a romance, and it's amazing, and I love it. So that's why I'm doing this project.
You know what you should do? You should actually, because I know you have traditions, like you watch Lost Boys on Halloween, you tend to watch Labyrinth on New Year's Eve and stuff. You should watch Rocky every year on the 26th of December. Because it's Boxing Day.
Wow.
Boxing Day.
Oh, remind me next year, and I'll
Day.
Remind me this year, and I'll do it.
Yeah. I mean, it's appropriate.
That's
right?
a great joke for our American friends.
Yeah, exactly.
I did mean to watch all of David Lynch's films this year, and watch a couple that I hadn't seen before, which I've got 2 left, but they're ones I've seen before. I was watching them in order too, so that's Mulholland Drive and Inland Empire. So I'm going to watch them soon. And then my director for this year is Tarantino.
Cool.
So I'm going to watch all of his. I don't know if I'll watch them in order. I'll figure that out. And there's 2 of his that I have not seen yet, which I don't know why. Death Proof and The Hateful Eight.
Oh, man. Yeah, I love nearly all of his films. I like Jackie Brown. I didn't love that one. I know a lot of people say that that's their favorite, which I find weird, but, each to their own. That's all cool. But yeah, Hateful Eight, that is such a great film. Like, yeah, such a big scope Western film. When I say big scope, a lot of it is confined to one setting inside a little house, so it's not that big. But in my mind, I keep, remembering a lot of the scenery shots at the start and everything. It was, it was definitely done by a man who, loves Western films. And yeah, Death Proof, oh my God. When those Grindhouse films came out, I was obsessed. Like you with Exorcist 3, I've got a Grindhouse t-shirt, all sorts of paraphernalia and things from those films. So, yeah, I really dug Death Proof. I thought that was a great flick. So I'll be looking forward to hearing what you think of that one.
And then my last project, of course, is Brad Dourif.
Right.
And I'm prepared for that one. I went on an eBay spree because so much of his stuff is not streaming or around anywhere. So I have, I think, 13 films on the shelf, plus a mini series he's in that sounds like a Twin Peaks ripoff kind of series. So I'm always here for weird stuff. So that'll be interesting. And I just found a super hard to find one from someone in Canada on eBay for a reasonable price, because I'm not paying $60 to see some old film.
No.
So that one is on its way to me currently, and I can't wait to watch because it sounds like the most insane setup for a movie. But I can't believe that this is a movie that got made. It's from the 90s. As part of a special government reform program, inmate J.T. Blake has to take care of Johnny Reynolds, who has cerebral palsy. In the meantime, another inmate wants to take care of J.T. Blake forever. But the thing is, he gets chained to the wheelchair or something. So they're connected and have to be together.
Right. Chained to the wheelchair. That could actually even be a name for the film.
Is that? Maybe I didn't read that. Yeah. Experimental prison reform that involves chaining violent criminals to the wheelchairs of people with cerebral palsy. The prisoners are to work as their carers. What an insane plot for a movie.
Oh, God. Yeah, no, are you sure Neil Breen wasn't involved in that one in any way? Because that really sounds like one of his films. Well, there you go. That'll be something interesting to talk about. But yeah, look, aside from that, there's a lot of big movies coming out this year. I kind of get the feeling, because we did go for a little while, I think, a few years ago, where a lot of people were complaining about the quality of movies coming out. Like, did you find that? People just sort of, saying, oh, hardly anything good came out this year, etc.
Although, I mean, there's COVID and everything, so I guess that stopped.
Yeah, but even before the pandemic
I don't
hit,
know. My time works no longer. I don't remember.
I sort of found people were just kind of, complaining a lot. But I think, like last year, God, there were so many great films. And I think this year is going to be a big one as well. So what are some of your most anticipated movies of 2024?
Before I get to my official list, I mentioned this in our top 10 video, but being in Australia, we get some films this year that other places got last year. So we're going to get Anatomy of a Fall, The Iron Claw, and Poor Things. I think there was one more, but I can't remember. But they're all out this month here.
Yeah, right.
The Joker sequel, I am definitely looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that one, I suppose. For those who missed the first episode, my living room is essentially a Harley Quinn museum. I am utterly obsessed with the character, and I cannot wait to see what Lady Gaga brings to the role. I cannot wait to see this film done as a musical. There's so many things that I'm really looking forward to about this film. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one.
And then we have Quiet Place Day 1 coming out. Which I had forgotten that was coming because, I looked it up when I watched the second film and saw it was coming, but it wasn't really talked about till I looked at the list. The Fall Guy looks like so much fun.
It does. I'm very aware of the TV show. I never actually watched it back in the day, but like you said, this film looks like so much fun.
Great use of Bon Jovi in the trailer too. It was very nice.
But David Leitch as a director, my God, that guy knows action. Terrific cast. I'm really super looking forward to that one. Yeah.
Beetlejuice 2. Very curious.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. I'm not one of those people that's like a massive Beetlejuice fan, but I am very keen to see how they take this story on, like, all these years later. So we'll give that a go.
And in a similar way, Twisters. Now, I love Twister, and I love like natural, like crazy weather movies. The only thing that worries me about this is Twister is... Can we talk spoilers about a movie from back then?
Oh, of course we can. If you haven't seen it by now, what's wrong with you? No,
it's not a big spoiler, but I rewatched it like within the last couple of years after not seeing it for so long. And what really surprised me was, of the core team of people in the group, no one died, and that doesn't happen anymore. And I know some people think, it's so unlikely that everybody would survive, and so some of them should die. But I'm like, it's fiction. It can be what you want, and I just want a nice film where everyone lives. And so now that the sequel's coming in modern times, I feel like that, I just wonder if it's going to feel the same or what.
Yeah. I don't really have much of a connection with the first film. I saw it once when it first came out on the big screen. I think I've watched it once since then, but I don't really remember it all that well. So, I'm not hugely excited about that one, but
I have a thing about movies about tornadoes. I just think they're so scary that I could never live in a place that regularly gets them. It would it's too frightening. So
no, that's fair enough.
I think that's why I like them in movies.
Fun fact, the movie Twister was the first movie that was ever released on DVD. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yep. There you go. That is one of those useless
Really?
facts that is stored away in my brain. Yep.
I
Twister
didn't
was the very
realize.
first movie released on a DVD. And I now you've got me second guessing myself, but I'm sure of this. I'm going to stake my reputation on that one.
No, well, I was just thinking
yeah.
it seems late for that to be the first DVD, but then I was like, wait, in the 90s I was getting tapes, so of course it was later that DVDs came out.
Well, we didn't really get DVDs over here, not in a big way, till I think it was the year 2000, because I started working in a video store in 99, and it was all VHS tapes. And then I went to a different store, like a different chain, and it was either 2000 or... No, I'm sure it was 2000. We started then... the transition to DVDs.
Yeah, they must have been out earlier than that, because in 99, before I moved over here, was when I bought my first DVD player, and I had just started working, and so I was able to put one on lay-by, because when they first came out, they were like 600 or something ridiculous.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, you can get one for like $30.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so that's your list of...
No, we've got the Ghostbusters, the new Ghostbusters coming out soon.
Oh yeah, Frozen Empire. Yeah. I mean, you and I, we both loved Afterlife, so yeah, this one's definitely anticipated.
And then Dune Part 2, of course.
Yep.
And I did just see, I was just looking at a list of what was coming out, and there's a movie called Voyagers, which I've never heard of, but it's a love story about Carl Sagan and his wife, and Andrew Garfield's in it, so that is now on my list.
Right.
But the big one of the year for me is, of course, Nosferatu.
Right. And why are you looking forward to that one so much?
Because it's Nosferatu, and it's... It's the new Eggers film, and he has...
There you go.
Yeah, and Bill Skarsgård.
And what more reason do you need to love it? I think you've ticked off pretty much everything on my list as well. There are a couple of movies, though. One of them is Argylle, which I recently saw the trailer for, directed by Matthew Vaughn, and that trailer blew my mind. In terms of sort of a action comedy, over the top sort of film, which Vaughn does best. I think that one's going to be a really good one. I'm going to save that one to last because that's possibly my most anticipated movie of the year. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes I'm interested in because I've really loved all the other Apes films so far. So that one I'm definitely looking forward to. I'm actually looking forward to Wicked. Mainly because I've seen the stage show and it is the best stage show I've ever seen in my life. It was extraordinary and I'm really looking forward to seeing what they can do in terms of a film. I'm kind of looking forward to Borderlands. I haven't played the games, but Eli Roth making a video game film, that one's got me interested. But look, my most anticipated movie of this year, and I know you're not going to share this with me because you haven't seen the first two, is Deadpool 3. I
will have seen them by the time the movie comes out. Oh, that's my other project, is to watch the X-Men films.
Yeah.
And Deadpool.
The Deadpool films to me are peak action comedy. I just rewatched the first one a couple of nights ago because Kylie hadn't seen it, and I got to show it to her, and I've lost count of how many times I've seen that film, but I still laugh. The opening credits bring tears to my eyes. I laugh that hard. They are so hilariously funny. But aside from that, the love story, like Wade Wilson and Vanessa, played by Marina Baccarin, the two of them were just up there with my most favorite on-screen couples in the history of cinema. which is weird to say in a movie where people's heads get sliced off and stuff. But and I thought the second one was pretty much on par with the first. It was one of those rare sequels. But this third one, having Hugh Jackman in as Wolverine and everything, I just think, it is going to be a big one for me. So that is my number one anticipated movie of this year, I would say. So, yeah, looks like we got some good films to look forward to.
Plus all the ones that we don't know about yet.
Yes, exactly. But I'm sure I'll get to the end of the year and I'll be like, oh my god, I saw the 6th Neil Breen film and that was my number one. But anyway, we shall see. But moving on, I think it's time we get into what we came here to do.
Sounds good.
So, yes, the format of this podcast, as we explained previously, we're going to discuss 3 films. One of them is a film that we picked together mutually that we've seen before but absolutely love and can't wait to talk about. And then we're going to give each other a film project a film that we need to watch before the next episode. And so the first movie, the one that we both mutually chose, was Mallrats, which was one that you chose because you just blurted it out and I was like, oh my god, I haven't seen that in a long, long time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Mallrats, of course, is the second film from writer-director Kevin Smith, who made it after Clerks came out in 94. Universal were so impressed with him that they gave him $6 million to make a big-budget comedy film, and he wanted to make a film that was kind of a love letter, I guess, to the films of John Hughes and, those kind of 80s teen comedy flicks. And Mallrats came out much to, not a lot of critical acclaim. It was kind of a bit of a flop, but ever since then, it's one of those movies that has gained a massive cult following, and so many people love that film. And would you consider yourself one of those people?
I would. I don't remember the first time I saw this, but I can only assume it was just browsing the video store and I saw it. And maybe Shannon Doherty, because was that around the time of Beverly Hills? When was that?
Well, Mallrats came out in 95. So, yeah, I believe...
Yeah,
well,
Beverly Hills started in 1990.
High.
So, because I really liked Shannon Doherty in that.
Yeah.
So, probably her being in this would have been a reason to grab it. But I assume I just saw it at the video store and thought, that looks interesting, like so many films.
Well, that was the reason that she was cast in the film, was because of her popularity around that time, mainly with Beverly Hills 90210. I was about to say Beverly Hills Cop, but no, she wasn't in that. So, yeah. It was funny. This film had a lot of people auditioning for roles. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but even the role of Jay was up for grabs because Universal were like, no, we don't want Jason Mewes to play this role because no one knows who he is. And so of the people who auditioned for that role were Seth Green and Breckin Meyer. Can you imagine an alternate universe where I can imagine Breckin Meyer doing the role?
Yeah.
Not Seth Green. Like, how weird is that?
That just makes me think, how he is in Can't Hardly Wait? He's kind of on the way there, but in a different direction. But Breckin Meyer, especially because he had the long hair and everything around like Clueless time. That's really interesting to picture Breckin Meyer of the 90s playing
but
Jay.
In the end, Kevin Smith though went to the producers and he was like, "Hello, the character is Jason Mewes. Like you can't swap that around. The character is actually him, like being himself." So but no, look, my history with the film, in a nutshell, 1994, a friend of mine, Mark, we One afternoon, we were browsing the shelves of the video store looking for something to watch, and we saw Clerks was sitting there, and he picked it up, and he was like, "Oh, I've heard about this movie. Like, let's take it home and watch it." So we watched it, and yeah, that was arguably the most life-changing film I've ever watched, because up until then, I was under the impression that in order to make a movie, you needed millions of dollars. You needed to cast huge actors and, all of this sort of stuff. And I watched this movie, this black and white film shot on 16 millimeter set in a shop with not, people who weren't actors and all this sort of stuff. And it just blew my mind, because I was like, oh my God, this is so entertaining. Does that mean I can do this? And so that was when, I picked up a camera, and it changed my life. But I remember the following year, because Mallrats came out really fast after, hot on the tail of Clerks. And I remember they only had limited screenings of it, cinematic screenings I think it only came out for like a week, showing up in Brisbane, which was, an hour away, and I missed it. So I caught it on VHS at the time, but my God, that film at the time, I thought it was everything to me. Because I was its demographic. Because in the 90s, I was hanging out at a friend's comic book shop, and I'd go there just, on days off or whatever, just to hang out and talk comics with everybody. And, we were those characters in the film. And so when this film came out, I was like, oh my God, like Kevin Smith made me a movie. And I thought it was hilariously funny and everything. Now, what did you think upon rewatching it? Do you think it still stands up today as well as it did back then?
Well, I don't know how to compare it, but I always have a good time watching it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I don't know how to compare myself to general population.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. Well, because I rewatched it last night. It had been a very long time since I'd watched it, and that in that time that has passed, I have evolved as a human being, and I have changed, and I am not. I don't go and hang out at a comic shop all day and stuff, even though I really wish I could. And I kind of watched it with a more critical mindset last night, and I really didn't enjoy it as much as I used to back in the day, and I found a lot of faults with it and stuff. Mainly, I think the main thing that I picked up on was that so many characters are essentially the same in the film, like have the same voice. If you play a drinking game where you take a shot every time a character says "holy shit," you are going to require an ambulance by the end of it, because that phrase pops up in like every character, like so many times throughout. Everyone speaks the same, and I get it, because it was Kevin Smith's second film. He was still emerging as a talent, and I love the guy. I'm not really sort of criticizing too heavily, but it's not a well-written film. Every character speaks very rapidly and with huge long words that characters wouldn't speak. It's that's what I mean, like everybody sounds like a Kevin Smith character. If you look at the argument between Shannon Doherty and Jason Lee, in the elevator, before they the way that she's like firing out this massive dialogue, or these huge chunks of dialogue and everything, and it's just like that doesn't sound realistic. And I know, for a movie like that, you can't expect realism, but I just think that it would have been better if the characters had different voices. But Smith went on, his next film, Chasing Amy, he really exceeded with that. I thought he really grew as a filmmaker between these two films. Look, it is hugely self-indulgent. God, everybody's a comic book, spouts comic book stuff, and I mean the opening credits with all the comic book stuff and everything. It was just like, yeah, it was extremely self-indulgent, but like I mean I still enjoyed it. But yeah, for me, it definitely hasn't aged as well as it did from.
I think
back in the
maybe
day.
you have a different perspective because you were so into it at the time as well. Whereas I didn't have really, besides Archie comics, that's about all I read when I was a kid. And a few kind of weekly things that my brother would get, but I didn't really know anything about comics. So that kind of stuff was just like stuff in the movie that I didn't really know about because, you know, I knew the films, Batman films and stuff. That's as far as in Lois and Clark on TV. That was my knowledge. So I don't know. Yeah. It was just a fun time. So I've just always found it a fun movie. It was my first Kevin Smith movie. I don't know. I know I saw Dogma at the cinema when it came out, so I don't know if that was the next one I saw, because I think it might have been later when I went back and filled in the gaps.
Okay, yeah, because Chasing Amy was between Mallrats and
I know
Dogma.
I didn't see that one for quite a while.
Oh, man, I saw that one opening day, first session on a Thursday morning, opening day, and I'll never forget because at the time I had long blonde hair, and I made the mistake of wearing all black and a beanie that day, and I remember sitting there by myself, and a couple walked in, and as they walked past, one of them commented like, "Look, there's Jay." And I was like, shit, yeah, okay, I did do that, didn't I? Oopsie days. So, yeah, but there was a few things that I picked up on last night, though, that I thought were a bit weird. One of them, the bit where Stan Lee and Brody, you know, meet each other, and Stan Lee gives him the whole, you know, monologue about love and romance and everything. So we go from Brody can't get into the comic book store because Stan Lee is signing comics. And there's this big whole fuss about it, and, you know, he gets, like, escorted off and all that, and he can't believe, oh my god, Stan Lee, how did I not know, you know, the name amongst names and everything. And then later on, like, he's standing there, Stan Lee comes up and starts talking to him, and he doesn't recognize Stan Lee until Stan Lee says, you know, something about, you know, a Spider-Man story he wants to, and then Brody's like, oh my god, you're Stan Lee. It's like, wait a minute, like, what the hell? How do you not recognize him if you're such a massive fan of the guy? You know, that was kind of weird. And there was a couple of little things I picked up on as well, where they must have done reshoots and stuff. If you look at the scene where Brandy is sitting on the game show chair, you know, Love and whatever it was called, there's some mid close-up shots of her where the lighting is drastically different and from the sort of wider shots, and you can really see that it was a different setup, you know, in terms of lighting and everything. So you sort of look at that and you think, oh wow, okay, that was reshoots, that's interesting. But but I mean, that's not a criticism, that was just something I noticed. But speaking of Stan Lee, I don't know if you remember in his cameo in Captain Marvel, where Carol Danvers is walking down the train and she walks past him, that scene, he's actually got the Mallrats script and he's practicing his lines from the script there. Which is funny because I actually just read last night that Stan Lee couldn't remember his lines in the film, and if you look, he's actually reading cue cards to the either left or right of Jason Lee. Which I didn't notice it. He did a good enough job, but I read that as a, you know, little trivia fact last night. But
I noticed before watching my review that I wrote last time I saw it was just a little comment saying, I only just noticed this time how Shannon Doherty wears so many different outfits, even though this is set on the same day. And so I took note this time watching, and she wears 5 different outfits.
Yeah, you know why?
Why?
Because in her contract, she was allowed to keep any of the wardrobe items that she wore in the film, and so she insisted, and this is true, she actually insisted that because she's a girl and she was in a mall that she'd be going shopping all day and stuff, and so that was actually her idea, to have the character wear all these different outfits so she could keep the clothes afterwards.
Well, it was pretty fun because it was just really funny.
Yeah.
That just a short time later they see her again and she's wearing completely different clothes.
Yeah. I also thought it was funny, like, when you look at it, you know, there was one particular aspect that I just thought, oh man, all the PC people wouldn't like, and that was the fact that they used the word retard 3 times in it. And I'm quoting from the film, I'm not saying. Every time they said that, I was like, oh man, 1995 was a very different time to now, wasn't it? So, yeah.
Definitely was.
So I do believe that the next film we have to discuss is one that you gave me as a project. What'd you give me?
Because I was so surprised you hadn't seen it. So that is The Burbs from 1989 by Joe Dante.
Yes.
And this is my favourite Tom Hanks film.
Wow. Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, because it's so fun.
How could you pick that over Bachelor Party that starred American Ninja's Michael Dudikoff?
I have not seen that.
Okay, let me just note to self that's your next project. No, just kidding. And why is this film so dear to you?
I don't know. It's just fun, eccentric people. So this is about neighbors living in a cul-de-sac, and there's a weird family that moves in next door, and so they're all suspicious and being nosy, trying to find out about them. And the family's weird. I don't know. It's just
one of those films.
Just gets me. It's weird.
Look,
I think I probably found this. I don't know. It may have been Corey Feldman that led me to this because after seeing Lost Boys and things, I know he definitely was a highlight at the time, but I don't know if he led me to it or it was just another video store find.
He had magnificent hair in that film.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a lion's mane that he had. Look, as you mentioned, I had not seen this film before. From the cover of it, which I'd seen numerous times, I thought it was like more of a wacky slapstick 80s comedy. It just kind of looked that way. Anytime you put a character in a dressing gown, that just screams slapstick comedy. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, it kind of is a little bit.
It is a little bit, but then when you were telling me that it had like a horror element and stuff, I was like, what? I don't get it. And so this was one of those films I wasn't even really that excited about watching it. I kind of thought, okay, I'll check it out. And so I watched it just yesterday. I put it on, and I got to admit, the first act, or the first half maybe, I thought it was okay. I was sitting there, but I was kind of like, oh, someone's messaged me. Should I pause it? No, I'll keep it running. Which is, I know. But, I have a huge but. Wait a minute, what? No, by the time the second half came about, I was so engrossed in this film to the point where, we were meant to be playing video games at 7:30 with Nobbins. Hello, Nobbins. And I was just like, nope, the movie's still got a few more minutes. I am not getting away from this. I ended up loving it. I loved it. The tone of the film was perfect. And next time I watch it, I'm going to be more engrossed in the first half because, I've kind of got more of an idea. I actually
noted how great the opening is. Not the very first part, but when the newspaper kid comes into the street and there's just like a kind of the jaunty score playing as he's chucking the newspapers, and then it kind of changes. It focuses on the different neighbors until you get to Corey Feldman, and then it turns into rock music and goes from him to Rumsfeld, the army guy. So I just thought that was like a really great kind of introduction to the street.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the way that the tracking shots went, from one to the other was masterful. But yeah, it really kept me guessing as well. And we're going to talk more about specifics a bit later on in the podcast in our sealed section. We're gonna keep going now, and just go spoiler free. But we will be having a sealed section at the end of this podcast. We'll let you know when it's going to happen, and it is a sexy, sexy place for anyone who wants to talk spoilers. So we'll get into that a bit later.
We wanted to do both ways so that people who haven't seen the movies and are interested in hearing about them can listen to this part without being spoiled by everything. And then in our sealed section, we'll actually talk about specific scenes and things. So it'll be super spoiler heavy. So definitely don't listen to that if you haven't seen the films and you want to see them without knowing everything about them.
Absolutely. So I will say, it kept me guessing because the Klopeks, the strange family, there's that whole thing of like, are they actually serial killer weirdos or are they just misunderstood? And then the whole way through, you're sort of thinking one thing, and then I loved how it had that whole thing about, how the strange-looking weirdo family aren't the weirdos. It's the people who spend way too much time snooping and trying to spy on them, and they're like, they're the weirdos, and I thought that was great. That was such a great message. And then, the way things develop, which we will talk about in the sealed section, kind of surprised me. But there was so many great moments that really stood out to me. And the one thing that really stood out was the actor, I hope I'm saying this right, Rick Ducommun, I don't know, who played Art, because I'm sitting there and I've got this visual image in my head of him in a scene in a movie talking, and saying something along the lines of, right, you are paying attention. And I'm like, what is that? Where is that coming from? Right, you are paying attention.
Yeah.
And then suddenly I'm like, hang on. It's a classroom scene. He's in a classroom and he's talking to people. Oh my God, it's Encino Man. He was the teacher in Encino Man. But I looked up his listing on IMDb, and my God, that guy has been in so many films. He had a bit role in Die Hard that all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I remember him from Die Hard as well. He has been in so many films, but always really small little roles. And I think that's what the term a character actor is, like someone who just really shines in small roles and stuff. And so, that was really cool seeing him in a bigger role. But on the subject of Encino Man, did you know, and I'm full of fun facts tonight, that before Corey Feldman was cast as Ricky, that role was almost given to a young Pauly Shore.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. When he was a complete unknown young kid actor or whatever. He actually almost had that role until they decided to get
would have
Corey
been good
Feldman
in that role as well.
It would have definitely changed the character. There's no doubt about that.
Well, you need to see Phantom of the Mall because that's an early role for him before, he started that persona.
Before he became Pauly Shore,
Yeah.
But no, there was a lot of things that I also dug how there was a shot where Tom Hanks's character Ray is laying in bed watching Mr. Rogers on TV, because it was like, oh, wait a minute, that's kind of, foreshadowing there, because of course he went on to play Mr. Rogers in, that film a few years ago. I thought that was kind of cool.
I liked all the horror movies too.
Yes,
Exorcist to Texas Chainsaw 2, which I know now because I just watched that a few months ago.
Yeah. No, there was a lot of outstanding moments in that film. But no, I am really grateful that you showed me that film because, I loved it. I would definitely own it on Blu-ray, which I may end up doing because, that's got rewatchability, and not just because of Wendy Schaal, who for an 80s looking chick, by God, she was hot in that film.
What's that for an 80s looking chick? You not a fan of 80s style?
We've moved on from there, I think, the hair and makeup was extremely 80s.
I thought she looked amazing.
Yes, she really did. And it was kind of funny, hearing the voice of Francine from American Dad in there, because I kind of knew her mostly from that, I think. That was interesting. But yeah, no, she was pleasant on the eyes. I'll just say that. So yeah.
And Bruce Dern was amazing too. He's a favorite in that. So
oh yeah. No, all around that was such a great flick. I really enjoyed it. So but speaking of great flicks, you watched a film that is one of the most dearest films to my heart. A film that, oh man, altered the course of my life. It is just, something that I was extremely excited for you to watch. And that is a little 1987 action film called Deadly Prey, which was a film, so stop me if you've heard this plot, about a group of mercenaries in the jungle who capture civilians and set them loose for target practice. And one day they kidnap a man who is taking out the trash innocently one day, and they set him loose in the jungle, not realizing that he is Mike Danton, an extraordinary killing machine who suddenly has an oiled up body and a tiny pair of shorts. And one by one, Mike Danton goes through and slaughters the entire mercenary group. And then we find out that Colonel Hogan trained him in Nam, and it was like, oh my God, it's just the drama unfolding is extraordinary. So, should we just preface this with a nutshell history of my love of this film?
Go ahead.
Okay, so back in 1993, my girlfriend at the time saw a listing late one night on commercial TV for the film Deadly Prey, and in the TV guide it said, watch this film if you enjoy the sight of someone being beaten to death with their own severed arm. And she was like, oh, Dan would like that. So she taped it for me, and I'm just, in my brain now, I'm suddenly going through, if she had never taped that film for me, how different my life would be. Anyway, no, I'm not even close to kidding. So she taped this film for me, and I watched it, and it was the first time I'd ever seen a movie that was so bad I fell deeply in love with it. It is riddled with mistakes. The acting is just so overacted and cheesy and horrible. The lines of dialogue are just diabolical, and I loved every second of it. And I showed my friends this film. They showed their friends. Mike Danton just became like this, god to us. Like every time I got snapped by the local papers at movie events or whatever, and I gave my name, I always gave my name as Mike Danton. I actually have like paper clippings of me as Mike Danton. And then many years later, I think it was 2012, I saw an announcement that a sequel was being made called The Deadliest Prey, which brought Ted Pryor back as Mike Danton. His brother David A. Pryor was once again the writer-director. Fritz Matthews was back as Lieutenant Thornton's twin brother. It was like all these things, and I'm just like, oh my God. So I got online and I ordered a bunch of copies that got lost in the post. And I got in contact with David A. Pryor, and I was like, excuse me, but yeah, my order got lost. Is there anything you can do? And he gave me Ted Pryor's email address and said, oh, look, Ted's handling all the marketing and stuff. Give him a email and everything. I'm just like, are you fucking kidding me? I am actually going to email Mike Denton. So I wrote to Ted, and he sorted me out. He sent me a replacement, but not only that, the DVDs were all autographed. One of them by Ted, Fritz Matthews. There was like a whole bunch of people that had signed them and everything, plus lobby cards. Like, he actually sent me lobby cards for both Deadly and Deadliest Prey. Like, the guy really looked after me. And then next thing, through some bizarre series of circumstances, I actually became friends with him on Facebook, and we've been actual friends. Like, I've talked to the guy on the phone. He sent me video clips to put in reviews and things like that. And yeah, that's what I mean, like, changed my life, which is why I was giddy with excitement about you finally getting to watch this film. So I'm a little bit curious as to what your thoughts on it are, being that you just watched it today.
Yeah, I literally just finished it and had dinner before recording this, so that's how recent it is. Yep. But I'm happy to say that I had a great time watching this.
Yay!
I think I paused it like 2 minutes in or something. I paused it to make a note of how much I loved the opening title, because it's just like a silhouette of a guy walking and then just stopping and doing like wide-legged starts.
Yeah, turns around.
And then and there's great music as well.
Yeah.
So I actually ended up pausing the movie about 20 minutes in or something to go look on Apple Music and see if the soundtrack was on there, because the like upbeat music through multiple scenes I just thought was really great and went really well with what was happening on scene.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, look, I've gone so deep into this film. I know the composer was Steve McClintock, and yeah, that score with just it's three notes, just that dun dun dun. Well, it just happens so often throughout. It's the cheesiest 80s music.
Yeah, but it's just like the beat and everything.
It
just keeps the energy going. But I also thought it was funny that, like, when you first meet Mike Dan, he's like sleeping and getting out of bed, and then he gets out of bed and walks in the bathroom, and I was like, wait, he was sleeping in tiny denim shorts?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of sleeping attire is that? And then, of course, it made sense in the next scene when he gets kidnapped, because he needs to have his tiny little shorts to wear while he's running around in the forest.
Absolutely. But look, that's the thing. When you've watched the film as many times as I have, which I swear is over 30 times, you then notice things like the fact that his alarm goes off at 7:36 in the morning. Who the absolute fuck sets their alarm for 7:36? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
No, I get that, because you just don't care about being precise when you're moving the thing. I do that with my phone. I think my phone goes off at like 4:47 or something like that. Because I was just scrolling the minutes, and I was like, oh, that's close enough. So I just saved it on that.
Fair enough. Okay, I never thought of that. I just always thought that was extremely strange.
But, maybe he just really likes the time 7:36.
Oh, look, I mean, thanks to that movie, it is my most favorite time of day. Not that I'm ever awake at that time, but yeah. So, like, so you get where I'm coming from as far as how charming the film is, right? I mean,
oh yeah, it's a good time. I was laughing at how stupid all the things were. Like, some guy got like killed by being stabbed through with a branch that was so thin it would have just snapped as soon as it hit someone.
I know. Oh man, did you love the bit where Danton picks up not like a large branch or something to knock someone out, but an entire fucking tree trunk and knocks the guy out? I mean, the styrofoam rocks on top of the hill, and I love that bit where the rocks are coming down and you see the group of mercenaries, but if you look closely, like some of them, actually like lay down and pass out like before the rocks even hit them. This is what I mean. You've got to watch this film multiple times because you just pick up stuff. There are shots where the camera's going through the woods or whatever, and there's one shot where it catches on a small twig or whatever, and it goes boing, boing, boing. There's two shots in the film where you can blatantly see that Ted Pryor is wearing white sneakers. Oh man, this is what I mean. The film is riddled with mistakes. And, of course, things like the bit where, the mercenaries and Colonel Hogan are on the trail and they stop. And I think it was the bit where, he's like, Danton? Mike Danton? Oh, I'll be damned, and stuff. And as they're running off, the camera just goes up like about a meter and a half and he's sitting in the tree. Now, I spoke to Ted about that one time and I was like, on the phone, I said, dude, like that shot. And he's like, my God, he said, I argued with my brother black and blue about that shot. I was like, it looks so stupid, I mean, he's
no cover.
Exactly. And David said to him, oh, no, you don't understand filmmaking, man. Like, trust me, it's going to look great, in the edit and stuff. And Ted's like, okay, you're the director. And of course, it turned out like that. Like those.
Well, I mean, it looks great, but in not the way he was probably thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
But it looks great because I burst out laughing when I saw that he was just there and no one noticed.
Exactly. That's what I mean. The film has so much charm. It was done by a bunch of people who just loved what they were doing, who gave zero fucks. Of course, I mean, you can't talk about this film without mentioning the helicopter explosion, where you've got a helicopter against a bright blue sky, and then, Danton fires the rocket, it goes up, and the explosion is against black. Like, it just cuts to a stock footage explosion against black sky. I mean, things like that. They just gave no fucks, and I love it. And that movie set my course for loving things like The Room and Neil Breen films and all of that sort of stuff. That film, just my love for that is so deep. But you're gonna have to watch The Deadliest Prey at some point because it's a carbon copy.
I just looked that up on Letterboxd. It has slightly higher rating than the first one.
God, I don't know why. It's
like 2.8 to 2.9, so it's not a huge difference.
Okay, right. Oh,
I just find it interesting when sequels happen.
Yeah.
But a lot less people have seen the second one.
Right. But
so maybe only the hardcore fans.
Yeah, look, maybe. But no, it's funny because David A. Pryor and Ted Pryor, they made a shit ton of the same type of films in the 80s. There was Future Zone, Hell on the Battleground. I don't know. There's like a ton. I've got actually, do I still have them? I don't know. I had like a stack of VHS tapes that I stole from various video stores back in the day because I wanted to collect all of their films, and yeah, as great as a lot of them were, just none held a candle to Deadly Prey. Like I said, it is my ultimate favorite. Actually, the funny thing was earlier on, I went looking for on IMDb for this thing, and I was looking at some of the user reviews, and I saw one that caught my eye that was written in December 21, 2002, and I clicked on it because I was very curious about it, and I didn't realize that it was my own review. And so I had given it 10 out of 10. My heading was...
No wonder you were interested.
Yeah. It was the title was Gold, Pure Gold. And I said, and this is something I don't remember doing. I said, I love this movie to the point that I found an email address for Ted Pryor's ex-wife and wrote to her. It thrills me to know that she passed on the regards of Ted's legion of Gold Coast fans to him. That's what I mean. I saw this thing about an email to his ex-wife. I'm like, who wrote that? I was like, oh my God. Like, I don't remember ever doing that. But then I wrote, please, if anyone is reading this and considering watching Deadly Prey, drop everything, quit your job, divorce your wife, rent it out, and enjoy what is arguably the finest motion picture ever committed to celluloid. So there you go. That is just how much that I loved that film.
Interested in your mindset of why do you need to quit your job and divorce your wife before you watch it?
Because if you have to go to work, or you've got Deadly Prey sitting at home, and your boss is like, "No, I'm not giving you the day off." You're like, "Well, all right." And if your wife is like, "You're not watching Deadly Prey. You've got to mow the dishes and do the babies and whatever adults do," you're like, "Nah, bitch, I'm watching Deadly Prey." Yeah, that's... Look, I don't know. That was written by 2002 me, so, I don't know what I was thinking back then. I don't know what I'm thinking now. We probably shouldn't mention the photos we were exchanging that night we were playing games when we were discussing Ted Pryor, should we? All right, all I'll say is, ladies, if you type in Ted Pryor Playgirl on... Google image search, you'll be impressed, I'm sure. I nearly turned gay that night.
That's kind of what comes to mind now whenever anything's mentioned, because that was quite recent that you alerted me to those pictures.
I did, and I don't know if when you saw how short his shorts were in the film, if you were like, "Oh, I might be able to see little Ted Jr. down there somewhere," but anyway. All right, cool. Well, there you go. Three films that we have enjoyed. I wonder if we'll ever give each other a film that the other was like, "Yeah, I hated it."
Hopefully not. I mean, we do have enough of a similar taste that, and I feel like potentially I could tell if it was a film you were gonna hate, and I wouldn't give that as an option. I don't know. We'll see.
Exactly.
I don't know. I think we're similar enough that we would at least think it was good enough to watch if we didn't love it.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if not, it'll make for an interesting discussion.
Oh, yes, definitely. No, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure we'll still be friends afterwards. So this brings us to just this final little bit before the sealed section with what we're going to talk about next fortnight. So you suggested the next one for us. I did. Well, you picked Mallrats, so yeah, for our next discussion, I have chosen the Dawn of the Dead 2004 remake that was directed by Zack Snyder, written by James Gunn, and oh my god, a film that I love so much and cannot wait to talk about. And for the other films, how are we doing this, Frankie? Well, this was your idea. So we thought we'd keep it fun by giving it an illusion of choice by giving three options. But then you thought that maybe to pick between those options, instead of just trying to come up with a vague description that, wouldn't give it away, but would be interesting, we would just find Rotten Tomato reviews, either good or bad, and go by them to pick. So exactly, that's what we've done. Yeah, I think that's going to be such a fun way to do it, rather than just like, I don't know, a movie about an oiled up man in shorts who kills mercenaries. We're just going to... So, I've chosen three movies that Frankie can choose from, but as she said, I'm just going to give her Rotten Tomatoes reviews that I have picked, and she can see what she is in the mood for. So, shall I read you these reviews? Okay. So the first movie that you can possibly choose, one critic said, Stephen Merchant never loses sight of what matters, which is the coming-of-age theme, and he blends the fish-out-of-water humour and the triumphant moments to undeniably entertaining effect. The second film that I have chosen, somebody has given it a review and said, a horribly funny addiction allegory, equally likely to make you feel sympathy and sorrow or burp up a tiny bit of sick. And the third one, just a very simple review. It says, easily the greatest ghost movie of the 21st century so far. Ooh. So you've got a triumphant fish out of water comedy to undeniably entertaining effect, a movie that will possibly make you burp up a tiny bit of sick, or the greatest ghost movie of the 21st century so far, according to somebody.
The third one intrigues me, but I have to go with the second one because that has me the most curious.
Brilliant. All right. In that case, you are going to be watching the film Brain Damage from 1985, I want to say. It is a film that I caught one night late on TV, and oh man, 88 it's from. I instantly fell deeply in love with the film. It's by Frank Henenlotter, who did films like Basket Case and stuff. And yeah, it is absolutely brilliant. And
would you say this is better than Basket Case?
Yeah, I would.
Okay, because I wasn't overly a fan of Basket Case.
Okay. No. Brain Damage is amazing. It is up there with my most favorite 80s films, I would say. So yeah, you chose well.
Okay, so my first film for you, someone has said, a likable and loud outsider comedy that has metal in its heart and its heart on its sleeve. Turn it up to 11. Second film, mesmerizing yet cold and remote, an exotic fish we can't touch. And the third one, violence breaks out, mind games are played, and it's also adorably eccentric that you don't ever want it to stop.
Okay, sorry, can you read the first one out again?
A likable and loud outsider comedy that has metal in its heart and its heart on its sleeve. Turn it up to 11.
Yeah, look, I mean, it's pretty obvious that I'm going to go with that one. Yeah, all right, I'm gonna turn this up to 11 and go with the rock and roll film. Well, what do you got for me?
Let me just look, because I just found out it has an alternative name. Where did I see? Oh, that was on.
Because ordinarily I would have thought this is Spinal Tap, but I know that I've seen that about 12 billion times. So
it is the film called Heavy Trip from 2018.
Oh, okay, I know the title.
About a black metal band. And the alternative name on Rotten Tomatoes is a band called Impaled Rectum. That's their name.
Wow. All right. Yeah, no, that looks good to me. I'm keen.
Yeah, it's a really fun film, and it's got all the black metal stuff. So, and yeah, they're trying to get to a music festival. So,
okay.
They steal a van and try to get there. But it has that fun thing of they're like the weirdos in their town because they're into metal and stuff.
All right, cool. Well, yeah, no, I'm very keen for that one. So that brings us to the end of the spoiler-free version of the podcast before we get sexy in here. So I guess we should thank everybody now for tuning in and sticking around, because, yeah, so much for the idea of us doing 1 hour episodes.
Yeah, I told you that would be difficult.
Yeah.
Although we were a bit longer in the front part because we were talking 2023, so maybe, I don't know, because if we talk about what we've watched recently, it may end up being that long every time, who knows.
Whatever. But if you have stuck around this far, congratulations. You deserve something. Send us your address. We'll mail you out some of Frankie's Blu-ray collection.
No.
Oh, fine. All right. Yeah. So that being said, if anybody does actually wish to get in touch with us, so yeah, we do have links on Twitter and Facebook, and we actually have an email address, which is danandfrankiepodcast@outlook.com, all one word, of course. And you can find us on socials. Twitter, we're at Dan and Frankie with underscores. And look, if you just type in Dan and Frankie go to Hollywood somewhere, like, I'm sure it'll come up. So yes, come and chat with us. We'd love to hear from everybody, because we love you guys. You're special.
And if you haven't seen any of these films, I hope you're inspired and look for them and check them out.
Yeah, because that's what this is all about. So yes, so to all those spoiler-free people, thank you for sticking around. We'll see you in a fortnight. But for those who want to get a little saucy, then here we go with the sealed section. All right, so I don't really... The only thing that I had in terms of spoilers was with the Burbs. The way that they set up that whole mystery element, when you see the shot of like the family digging in the backyard and everything, and then like the dog's got a femur and everything, but then of course they think that the neighbor has been murdered and all this sort of stuff, and of course, you're really thinking, oh my god, that's it. Then they throw that red herring in by having the neighbor come back, and it's like, oh shit. And of course Tom Hanks is by then digging in the basement of the house and whatnot, and I loved how they then did another switcheroo and actually had the I can't remember the senior Klopek's name, but in the back of the ambulance, who actually confesses that they did actually murder the family before they came in. That was so well done.
Yeah, it was pretty good, because at the end when he's in the basement, you're like, oh yeah, he's just lost his mind over nothing. And the fact that he just kept digging and digging and digging right down until he hit the gas. I think, don't hold me to it, because I meant to look this up, but I can't remember. But I think maybe I heard that there was another version where that end bit didn't happen.
Oh, okay, right.
But I don't know, like, at what stage, or if that's true or anything. I forgot to do research.
That was one of the elements of the film that actually really appealed to me the most, and I obviously couldn't talk about that before. But yeah, it was a really clever script, and really clever the way that it kept you going. So, did you have any spoilers about that film, or any of the others that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. I think I really loved the scene where the wives took them over to meet them properly, and just all the weirdness of eating the sardines and peeling the wallpaper.
Oh, actually, that sardine bit you just reminded me, that was such a like overblown element of Foley editing, like where they put sound effects into a film, because the way he's like squelching the sardine as he takes it out of the tin was just so over the top, and like the chewing and everything was like, it's one of those moments that you're like, okay, that sound has been recorded later on and edited in, and so it's kind of interesting to watch stuff like that.
Yeah, but it really works for the scene to make you just feel how awful it was that he's getting this slimy sardine out to eat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But no, that was quite effective in lending sympathy to the Klopeks in that instance as well. So yeah, no, brilliantly written film. I guess the only other spoiler that's worth mentioning, in Deadly Prey, were you shocked as hell when Jamie, the wife, got shot in the head?
I totally expected her to live, because I really liked Cooper as well, and I was like, oh yeah, friendship, and then I was like, 50-50 on if he was going to die or not, and so of course he didn't make it, but I really thought that the wife was going to. But I kind of love, I didn't love it that she died, because I didn't want her to, but I loved
she was an annoying bitch.
Well, I know, but it's his wife, so I wanted a happy ever after. But I also loved the surprise of something like that happening, because you don't expect it. And also then when the severed arm thing happens, I actually forgot that was a thing mentioned that happens in the movie, which I'm glad I forgot since it's right at the end. But so that was fun. There's one line that's like my favorite line in the movie, not because of what the line is, but because of the way he says it.
Yeah.
When the colonel is like, "You owe me," and he's like, "I paid my dues in the war. I owe you nothing." But the way he says nothing, I had to rewind it and listen again.
Oh man,
I just love the way everyone puts on a voice and talks that kind of tough guy, kind of weird, like non-natural kind of voice.
Yeah, even the opposite end of that, where one of the mercenaries runs into the tent and he's like, "Colonel, they've got my weapons." Yeah. It's just
I mean the top ones have all the tough guy voices, not the supporters supporting people rather.
And even the very end when Colonel Hogan's on his knees and Dan's, like, "Your shirt, take it off," and stuff. And then, that final bit where it's on Danton's painted face and he's just like, "Run." Just that whole...
And I also like that he throws his arms up and yells, but the sound came in a bit late.
Yeah, and just loops. Like, oh my god, yeah. Actually, that was another thing as well. That film, there's a line in the film that was blatantly plagiarized from First Blood. Because, it's clear that they were just trying to cash in on that film. But it's the bit where one of the mercenaries says to, I think he says to Thornton, just before he gets shot, he says, "We're not hunting him, he's hunting us." And then Thornton turns around and blows him away. Years later, I'm watching First Blood, and there's a bit where one of the cops in the wilderness, when they're hunting Stallone, he says, "We're not hunting him, he's hunting us." I'm like, oh my god, they didn't even try. They just took that line and threw it in there. And that's what I mean, it just added to the film's charm. But yeah, so, no, you'll love Deadliest Prey, because Mike Danton has a new wife, and he has a son who's played by Ted Pryor's actual kid in real life, who, his name, I'm not kidding, is Michael. And that's another thing as well, because Ted Pryor has been in a couple of, and this brings it ties it in with Mallrats. God, we're clever. Ted Pryor has been in a couple of films with Jason Mewes, and one of them, Ted Pryor was playing a bartender, and the character didn't have a name, and so the director just said, listed his name as Danton, because that is how fucking big an impact Deadly Prey has had on the world, in an underground way, but his character was actually listed as Danton in that film, which I have not seen, but very keen to, even though he just had like a brief cameo in it. But
there's one more scene that I really liked.
Which one?
When
was that?
He pulls in a guy to the hiding place, and he just like looks at him for a second, and then goes, "You're dead." And then stabs him.
I still actually even have the original videotape with the original televised version on there, because I could never throw it away. And it was funny because that film was so heavily edited that, like, the bit where Cooper gets shot to death at the end, you just see Thornton stand there, he pulls his gun up or whatever, it cuts to Cooper, and then there's just a blatant cut of him lying on the ground twitching. Like, you don't actually see the bullets going in or anything. It's crazy. Like, it was so badly edited. But yeah, no, oh man, yeah, just so many lines from that film have been quoted by all of us over the years.
The slow piano music when he's foraging for food and then finds the worm and then manages to just pounce on a rat and catch it.
He actually did even like put a real worm in his mouth for that scene too.
Yeah, that was awful. I covered the screen and went, poor worm.
Yeah. But that's dedication. All right, so we're done.
I guess so. Right. Oh, I just should mention with Mallrats, it's not a spoiler, but I Love Ben Affleck in that too, from Fashionable
Oh, yeah,
Male,
yeah.
and how he has no respect for people with no shopping agenda.
Yeah, yeah. And fun fact, his character Shannon Hamilton was named because Shannon Doherty at the time was married to, was it Ashley Hamilton? So her legal name was actually Shannon Hamilton. That's how he got the name. So yeah, there you go.
I did think it was funny when she talked about Shannon, and I was like, "That's
Yeah.
your name." Also,
and,
I
of
found
course-
it interesting too that Jeremy London is in that with Joey Lauren Adams, and then she was in Dazed and Confused with Jason London.
Yep. And then, of course, there was that funny bit where Willem Black, who's trying to look at the sailboat, where she's sitting next to him, and he looks at her and says, Brenda? And she says, Dick, and then hits him and walks off. But, yeah. So, there you go. All right. So, is that everything that we need to talk about those 3 films?
Yeah, I think so. Not too many spoilery things with these ones.
Well, yeah, it's kind of hard to spoil them all, rats, but anyway. All right, well, so to those of you who have stuck around in the sealed section, it's time to put your clothes back on and, yeah, don't forget to tip your waitress or whatever. I don't know, I'm just talking a bunch of random crap right now, but yes, thank you to everybody for sticking around, and, yeah, we will be back in another 2 weeks with another episode where we will be talking about 3 fresh movies.
I should say, I should have said this before, actually, for everyone who hasn't stuck around, but Heavy Trip is on Amazon Prime for those here. I don't know if it is anywhere else, but yeah, because for a while that was difficult to find. I ended up purchasing a digital copy just so I could watch it.
Alrighty, well, thank you very much for 2 hours of movie chat.
Hope you had fun and come back for more next time.
Is that me or the audience?
Everyone.
Oh, because I'm definitely coming back next time. Yeah, there's no question about that whatsoever. Because otherwise it's going to be you sitting there talking about movies for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. To everybody who's still here, thank you very much. I hope you have a fun couple of weeks and stay safe. And don't forget to come back in one piece because without you guys, we are nothing.